Hello, and welcome to A Sense of Centerville and Washington Township, your place for stories about ordinary and extraordinary residents and places in the Centerville and Washington Township area. I'm Susan from Centerville-Washington History, and I look forward to hearing your story. Today, my guest is Lauren Miller. Lauren Miller is the 2024 CWH Scholarship winner. An excellent student, Lauren also participates in many extracurricular activities, including Key Club, American Sign Language Club, Band, and the Circle of Friends. She's co-founder and president of the Psychology Club. Lauren has also been an active volunteer throughout her high school careers, volunteering at the hospital, at church, and with Centerville-Washington History as a teen volunteer. In her free time, she likes to read, write, crochet, and play guitar. She's attending Ohio State University in the fall and majoring in molecular genetics. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's been fun, actually, to get to know you. Normally, our scholarship winners, we don't know. And so you're our first that I've seen you regularly in the museum. So I really appreciate you being willing to be here today and tell a little bit about your story. So as I said, you are our first teen volunteer to be our scholarship winner. And it's been fun seeing the things that you've done with the organization. But tell me a bit about how you became interested in history.
So I think that it was a combination of me being an avid reader as a young child. I would just read like anything I could get my hands on. And though I read a lot of fiction, I did read a lot of like historical fiction, and I did read some nonfiction as well, and like biographies and stuff like that. And I think that reading stories from the past or historical settings just kind of really got me intrigued in like the way of life. How do people live in these societies? I got really interested in like the culture aspect of it. And I think that another aspect of why I'm interested in history is hearing stories from my family and just learning more about my history. And I think that's a part of the reason why.
I love it too. I'm super an advocate of learning about our family history. So you brought a couple of objects here, and I think they're really fun, especially the stories that go with it. So tell about your objects, and you can show them, hold them up as well, and talk about your relatives' experiences. Okay.
All right. So this is my
and I'm gonna move this over so it'll pick you up pretty well. Okay.
Okay. So this is my grandfather's coin collection, and my great-grandfather was a big coin collector, and then he kind of passed it down to my grandfather, who passed it down to me, and it's been a real honor
to have it.
Yeah, so this is a piggy bank from a banking company in the late 1800s. And
okay.
So when my grandfather went to open it, he realized that there was no they did not put a way to open it, so he had to actually drill a hole in the bottom. But there's actually a few coins in here from like 1860, 1890. So it's really cool. And I didn't bring the whole collection because it's a lot, but I have a lot of these books, which these are like pennies from like each year. So,
and I'll help hold it up.
As you can see over here, these are steel. When they did steel pennies for a few years.
And I didn't never know that there were steel pennies. That's so cool.
I guess they stopped doing it because it was not worth it.
It was not financially worth it.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. And you have a bunch of them.
Yeah. And so I have more books at home and some ones from different time period, different types of books. So I have a few coins in here, and they're not worth anything because they're pretty beat up. But I do have one from, see if I can find it. This is a 25 cents from 1890. And then my other one, I have a few other ones. But here's one from 1864.
1864. This was my favorite thing to do as a child, is go through my mother's coin collection. So it's so fun how these historical objects become, part of what we love about, history.
Yeah, and it is just so interesting learning about how different it was. And so in 1860s, $1 would be if you account for inflation, it would be worth about like $40 today. So
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy how different it, even like reading in books, like if you've read The Catcher in the Rye, and talking about like $5 was like a lot of money. And it's kind of like, it doesn't seem like that much now.
I know. That's true. That's definitely true. Go ahead and talk about what you learned about your relative in World War I or II? World War II?
My grandpa was one of 14 kids, and 9 of them were boys, and all 9 of them served in World War II.
Wow.
So, and then I think 2 had Purple Hearts, and 1 died in combat. And so he was actually a paratrooper and who died like in Normandy. Well, it's kind of interesting because the government kind of says that he died in Germany in like August, but it does, like, my family does not think that that's accurate because he would have never gotten there. The timing doesn't really add up. But so there's this TV show called The Band of Brothers, and my family thinks that he might have been he probably died like pretty early on. So, but this TV show follows the story of these American soldiers as they go into Germany and kind of just their experiences, and it's really interesting to see that, like, even if my great uncle wasn't like part of that, but he was like, that was kind of learning about his experiences, because it was just, I think that it's given me a very respect towards like hearing these stories and hearing like how brave that these soldiers were. It's given me a lot of respect towards history. And
yeah, definitely. And it's been 80 years since the Normandy invasion just recently. So that's really interesting that, all these stories do tell of people and their sacrifice. So you also mentioned a relative coming through on Ellis Island. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, so that was on my dad's side of the family. On my mom's side of the family, I think my great grandfather came over from Ellis. When they were coming, so my ancestors were there from Italy, and when they were coming over from Ellis Island, they couldn't speak any English, and so because of like the communication difficulties, they weren't able to communicate their last name, and so that's how my mother ended up with the maiden name Politis, which is Greek, because they just gave them a name, and just because of the communication difficulties. I think that's like really interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened a lot, I'm sure with language difficulties, that was very difficult. There wasn't translators and easy ways to figure out how to communicate with people, didn't speak the language. And so much bravery to come over, I think with people coming over and being the first to come from different places.
Yeah, and then they were coal miners for a long time, and they worked really hard to have like the life that I have now. And I just have to, really thank for like their hard work is why I have the opportunities that I have today. So.
Oh, absolutely. That was a hard life. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for all of your volunteering work that you listed. How did you become involved in volunteering, and why is that important to you?
So I've been volunteering for a long time. I think maybe how it got started was in elementary school. I was part of AHG, which stands for American Heritage Girls. And it's kind of like a patriotic scouting organization, it's kind of like Girl Scouts, but it was like through our church. And so you'd earn badges by doing like service work. And it very quickly for me came less about getting the badges, more like I just had a lot of fun doing these service activities, and I've really felt like I was contributing, and I feel like it's what got me into volunteering, and I've been volunteering ever since. So
what have been your favorite things to do for organizations?
So through the Centerville-Washington History program, I've had like some really great experiences. Every year we do grave cleaning, and that has been really profound. It just feels like it has like a lot of weight and meaning to it.
So what the teen volunteers have been doing is going out and getting permission, because you've got to get permission and you have to use the right tools so that you're not damaging the graves. and been scrubbing and getting the dirt off of it. So with the permission of the location that we're visiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, when my first grave, it was interesting because after cleaning it, I learned it was the boy's name was William, and I think he was like around 10 years old. So it was just really, and there was actually, he was, I forget his last name, but he was one of like the known families I got to see like a picture of him.
Oh, okay. From the curators.
Yeah, I don't know if I still have it, but
yeah. Well, it is fun. It is fun. I mean, if you think about it, everybody in that graveyard was a person, and learning their story makes you appreciate, that they lived and had a life, and you're remembering them now. Yeah.
Yeah, cleaning it just really I feel like it gives respect, and it makes them, more than just
a name.
That. Yeah, more than just a name.
More than just a name.
So.
And then you also worked, volunteered at the hospital. Tell us what you have done at the hospital for volunteering.
Yeah, so over the summers, I volunteer in the peri-op center. So that's post-surgery. Everybody, like after people have waking up from anesthesia and they're trying to get like their families to come in and get them home and stuff. And so what I mostly do is I wheel patients out to their cars while their family members going to get the car, and I also kind of clean stuff. I change the bed sheets and do a lot of cleaning work over there. So,
well, that's great. It's probably great training for future and learning how to work hard and learning how patients operate. And
oh yeah,
yeah. All right, so let's see. You entered high school during COVID. How did the pandemic change and influence your high school experience?
So COVID was kind of I feel like it really changed things. I mean, it did.
Absolutely.
And it totally kind of wrecked my freshman experience. So everything was online, and I feel like it really got in the way of my education in the terms that everything was open note, teachers were going easy on us, and I didn't really get the same education that I would have otherwise. So then the next year, sophomore year, when everything just kicked back to normal, and I don't think I was really prepared for it. It was a lot. Everything was it was kind of a lot after having been through online school. However, some more aspects of just kind of navigating COVID would be even when we were going back, it was kind of a process. So for every new thing that we were able to do was definitely you feel a lot of gratitude, and it's you feel a lot of gratitude that you didn't feel before. You never think about these things because you do them every day. But now just being able to, for example, for band, being able to play in a concert, even if you have to have a special mask that you can play your instrument through and bell covers, and even though you're 6 feet apart, just being able to do it, it feels really, you're really grateful for the opportunities. And
yeah, so just to kind of, because I had a child in band as well, so in order to accommodate COVID, they had bell covers, so any kind of wind instrument that had an opening, there was a mask on them as well. And then the kids had masks with a little slit so that they could blow through it. I'll have to see if I have a picture to add onto the video.
Yeah, and either you bought a special one from the store, or we had to get these masks and cut them in a specific way. And that was
it's kind of the crazy stuff that you forget about, because it's not that long ago, but it's as soon as the bad experience is gone, you don't want to dwell on it anymore, right?
Yeah, and then another aspect of it I feel is freshman year, at least for it's the time for connecting with meeting new people and really forming connections for high school. And I feel my grade didn't get that because we were online and everybody was quiet. So even when we were back, everybody was quiet, and I feel people weren't talking as much, and that was a big obstacle to overcome. So
you had to learn how to communicate again. After a significant portion of your life, you weren't communicating or interacting with anybody. Because even when you were online, it was just so hard to communicate online.
It was hard because my household of a lot of siblings.
How many siblings?
I have 5 younger siblings. So
5 younger.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that was fun.
Oh man. So finding a space that's quiet for each individual person.
And there was a lot of anxiety that came with Zoom for me. At least it's like, got to make sure the microphone's not on, or like talking in front of like this blank. I think for me, it's like I like talking to people when I can see their expressions. I can talk to them in person, and just talking to a screen is a lot different. It's not the same.
No, I agree with you. I think I feel just this layer of anxiety when I'm talking over Zoom than I don't have if I'm talking face to face. Like even this is a little more anxious than talking just, normal. Yeah, because you're like, oh, other people are here too. Yeah, definitely. So as things started coming back on, how did you start to interact with people? How did you develop relationships?
So I was pretty lucky in that I think a lot of my relationships came through band. In marching band, we found and also I had middle school friends that I carried on, and we found like ways of connecting with people. Friend of a friend, and so I found a good group of friends, a lot of middle school friends as well. And I was able to form connections and have like, a good support group. But I feel like everybody was a lot more anxious, less socializing. And maybe that's just our grade, just having been shoved into high school like that. So
yeah, and there was the big gap in your socialization.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's talk about clubs. How did your participation in clubs at high school contribute to your education?
Yeah, so joining clubs really gave me an opportunity to explore my interests, and that's another big way of forming connections with people who share those similar interests. So I didn't join any clubs freshman year because of COVID, so I was a little late to the clubs. But when I did, I joined. I think we mentioned it earlier, but I'm a part of Key Club, so we do a lot of different service activities, and also I was a part of, I guess.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy
that you graduated. Yeah.
And I was part of a circle of friends who, and it's a club for building connections with peers with disabilities. And then I was also a big part of American Sign Language Club, ASL Club. And we learned a lot about like simple signs, like finger spelling and deaf culture. And it actually inspired me to minor in ASL.
Yeah, and co-founder of Psychology Club.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so how did that come about?
Well, I really had a great time in psychology, and I had friends who also really enjoyed it, and we were like, what if we started a club? And I'm so glad that we did. It was just a way for us to explore psychology, not like within a textbook. And we did like a lot of experiments. We actually had a guest speaker talk about criminal psychology, and we did a lot of games and fun activities of just exploring different aspects of psychology.
And that will help you in your future career, won't it? Definitely. Yeah. Have there been any influential teachers that stand out from your time at school in Centerville?
Yeah, so back in middle school, my middle school English teacher, Mrs. Cariccioli, and also the librarian, Mrs. Lehman, inspired me to pick up writing, in that, I've always been writing. I would write like short stories, or I'd start and never finish. And I think that like they gave me the confidence and also like the inspiration to really take writing seriously. Like I can write a novel. And before I never considered that. And, just giving me the writing skills, but also the confidence in myself. And then more towards high school, two influential teachers I had were Mr. Hess, my advisor. He really helped us. He was the one that was like making the advisory a great time when everybody was silent by like having us do games and making everything like less awkward and
trying to encourage interaction, which was
yeah.
always something that's important.
Yeah, he did a great job at that. And also Mr. Carey, who was my biotech teacher. I was part of the biotechnology block program, and I learned so much from him. He's a very great teacher. A lot about like laboratory skills and experiments, and it just really fueled my passion for science.
I love it. So grateful for people that inspire. Yeah. All right. So how did you get your inspiration for your future career?
So I've always loved science. Like I've always had these questions about how the world worked. And especially like, ever since I figured out that there were green pumpkins. And I kind of fell in love with like genetics and biology and how the answers to those questions. And but on the other hand, I've always known I wanted a career in which I can work with people, because I love working with people. I love like one-to-one. And I think that being a doctor is going to like offer me both of these. That I can like both the science side of me, and also like the connecting with people or helping people through challenging times. Mm-hmm. But I think like also, you know, when you're little, I've known for a long time I wanted to be a doctor. But when you're little, it's kind of like, oh, I want to be a doctor. And it's kind of just, you know, you pick a random career that you know nothing about. So in fourth grade, it might have been fifth grade, but I picked up a biography on Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman doctor in America. And it talked about her experiences overcoming discrimination and just pursuing her dreams to become a doctor and establish like a women's like clinic. And it's just really amazing. She really inspired me, but also gave me realistic expectations of like, do I want to do this? And I think I do. I want to go to medical school.
That's so cool. Well, I'm so glad that you do. And you wrote a wonderful essay about it, and that's why you got your scholarship. So let's talk about learning to balance so many activities, work, and school, because you have had a lot of volunteer, you've been involved in a lot of clubs, and also focusing on your education. How do you learn how to balance all that?
So it's not like something that you learn overnight. I've always been the person to take on everything. I want to join every club, be part of the play, be part of a bunch of different, I was part of cross country, track, soccer, even basketball at some point, band. I was like kind of tackling everything in middle school. But once you get to high school, like you can't just tackle on everything anymore, because it's more time and commitment. It's more like, you're kind of forced to choose, and you have to make these decisions based on what's best for you and like, what do you want to do? And I think that like prioritizing mental health and is so important, because if you don't do that, if you don't prioritize like time management, if you don't getting enough sleep, you're going to crash and burn. And that was kind of what happened to me for a little while. Once like sophomore year hit, and I was still like kind of not used to this fast-paced learning that we didn't get at COVID.
Yeah, because you got from nothing to
I was part of marching band, and we were going really intense because we were going to be in the Macy's Day Parade. So yeah. And that with like hard classes, honors classes, it was just a lot. And so then I had to like take a break, you know, and just realize that, you know, I have to maybe cut back on some stuff, sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and you have to make what do you prioritize? And
that's wisdom, yeah, to know where to cut back, yeah, for sure. What kind of things make you happy, you know, where you need to spend your time. And sleep's always a good thing. So why do you think studying history is important?
I think studying history is important is because everything is built on history, and everything from works of fiction built on Greek mythology. There's so many, everything from like medicine built on like the work of thousands of scientists. Every technology that we have, everything that we have today is built on history and in the advances like of people before us. And so not only I think that's a reason why it's really important to look back on history, but also because it's really educational. It can teach us not to make the same mistakes that we made in the past.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Do you keep a journal? That's not on my questions, but I was curious.
Do you mean like a diary?
Yeah. Do you write down your experiences?
Yes, but it's not very consistent.
Oh, that's nobody's is. Well, some people are, but what are your favorite local places?
My favorite local places are the Graders, eating ice cream with friends, Bill's Donuts, local like places like that where I can just hang out with my friends. Also, like the libraries here. I have a lot of really great memories, like spending time with my family in the libraries and Centerville History, the Centerville-Washington Library, and hiking at Villyak Park.
Yeah,
there's so many parks, and that's a big part of my childhood.
Being outside.
It's being outside and exploring parks and with my family. And
yeah. So, because you're moving away, what are you gonna miss?
I'm going to miss, I feel like I'm excited to go forward, but I'm going to miss aspects of maybe like high school friends. Yeah. I'm going to miss like hanging out with friends that I'm not going to see when I go to college or college. I'm going to miss kind of like having my own room.
Yeah, you have to share. Yeah.
Yep. And just being so close, some of like the local places, and this is going to be like a really big life change.
It is a big life change, yeah. But you're ready for it. You'll be doing great. Yeah. So tell me what you like to do to relax.
I listen to music to relax. I think music is a really big part of my life, and also working out does really help with anxiety.
Yeah, it does.
At least for me, it does.
Yeah.
So, also working out and listening to music.
Yes, I love that too.
So I think that like when I'm really stressed out, I have to find like coping mechanisms, like ways to like de-stress. And even like being part of clubs that you love, just taking a break from schoolwork when it like piles up, and just taking some time to spend time with your friends or family, or just have time to yourself. It's really important.
Yeah. You mentioned you like to crochet. What do you like to crochet?
Well, that's a very new hobby that I recently picked up. And I'm trying to currently I'm trying to crochet flowers. But I picked it up because
flowers. I've never seen that before.
It's not going too well. But we'll get there.
You don't have to do well at it for it to be enjoyable.
But I say I got into it because all of the stuffed animals.
I know. I was curious if it was stuffed animals.
Yes, it was.
I think they're adorable, but
oh yes.
Yeah, I don't want to do it myself. Well, thank you so much for being